strong.
Chapter 271, Four Black Belly Brothers. The people of the Donghang realm were not too surprised. Although Donghang Academy was somewhat defeated, but think carefully, the two forces of the Qin dynasty and Dong Hazong joined forces to create the East Qin Academy to summon the strongest in the world to gather in Choge city. Isn't there something to prepare? The Qin dynasty and Dong Hazong certainly didn't underestimate the academy and the thatched hut, but then again, these two powers were as famous as the academy. This victory was the result of a long-planned plan. However, yesterday, Jiu Dongyu's powerful strength crushed the preparations of the two major powers. They must have absolute trust in Lu Nanshan. Otherwise, if Lu Nanshan also won yesterday, then the East Qin Academy was truly extraordinary. The light of the academy is gone. In fact, the academy itself knows this very well. Whether it was Zhu King or Zongzu, or the Bailey Book, they were as bright as a mirror. The East Qin Academy created by the two powers was to replace it. Such a layout shows determination and its rise is inevitable. Actually, they can leave after yesterday, but the East Qin Academy has invited to fight. If they leave, they will avoid war. Qin Yu looked around at the people, and continued to say, the powers of the Eastern Desert are gathered here, and everyone of Tianzhou today can go to the battle platform to try. As I said before, in the next 3 months, Dongqin Academy will be recruiting academy students, and this is the stage for the assessment. In addition, if only one battle platform seems insufficient, so I want to divide the battle platform into 4. The 4 battle platforms correspond to the martial arts war, the master war, the rhythm war, and the infinite war. Yes, in this way of debate, we can more clearly see the talents of the disciples developed by various powers, and it is more efficient to have people on different platforms at the same time. Qin Yu continued to talk, and they lamented that Qin Yu's plan was actually using the power of the Eastern Wasteland to build momentum for their East Qin Academy. With this stage, the East Qin Academy is recruiting disciples, a good method. His voice dropped, and someone immediately stepped forward, and just above the battlefield, the French line was lit up, and it was divided into 4, turning into 4 battlefields. Downstairs, at Donghang Academy, Xiao Wuji said, I will challenge again. The previous defeat was a loss in a group battle, and he didn't want to. If you want to challenge, the object is only Qianshan Mu. However, do you have the certainty of winning? Barry asked. Xiao Wuji stared at the opposite figure. Although he was very confident in his own strength, it was hard to say that he would be able to defeat the other side in the face of the Qianshan Twilight. He had already mastered the other party's musical instrument, and that was only the tip of the iceberg. Qin Yu deliberately made the rhythm of music. What is the purpose? For the battle of rhythm, who can beat the disciples of Qianshan Mu and Dong Hazong? I heard that Hua Kangking's magic piano voice isn't necessarily weaker than Qianshan Mu's. The Miles book continues. Madame Dongba Zongzong is known as the first ruler in the Eastern Wasteland, and the person she teaches is not bad. Zhu King said beside him at this time. Although he is now in era of youth sharpness, he as a strong person of the older generation, it is naturally impossible not to know who the ancestor of Dong Hazong is. The unrivaled beauties who had lived in the Eastern Wasteland had her splendid talents. In that era, her fame was only stronger than the current 3 main beauties of Dong Hazong. Hua Kangking was said to have obtained an actual 9-point biography. Zhu Yan, you go, said Zhu King. Behind him was a beautiful woman. He nodded gently and said, yes, sir. Anyway, walk to the platform where the profession is not restricted. Bailey Shu looked at Zhu Yan, a disciple in the heavenly realm, and Zhu Kangshan Chang was well liked, but he was not famous outside the world, but he was very strong. Zhu Yan didn't say who to challenge, but he roughly said the name of his kingdom. Later, the Qin dynasty arranged for a powerful man in the kingdom to fight against him. In this battle, Zhu Yan defeated his opponents. When everyone saw this battle, they understood that the academy was still an academy. Even though Dongqin Academy would shake Donghang Academy's status, he wanted to directly defeat Donghang Academy. Well, that's clearly impossible. In the end, it was estimated that the situation was evenly split, but even so, Dongqin Academy still won. If you can share the fall with Donghang Academy, and if Dongqin Academy is willing to teach methods like the Emperor's tactics, you can see his sincerity. In the future, Dongqin Academy will become a terrible power, and the disciples cultivated by this power will continue to be the power of the Qin dynasty and Dong Hazong. In the Eastern Wasteland, the academy was one of the most attractive places for talented disciples. No, this was probably one of the reasons why the two major powers had joined forces to create the East Keen Academy. Next, the troops gradually disengaged. Several people stepped on the four platforms for discussion and debate, and the atmosphere gradually increased. Even those top-level powers, many outstanding disciples also went up to discuss and wanted to witness the strength of the top-level geniuses. The strife between the two colleges is very real, with each other winning and losing, and it's very interesting. Dong Keen Academy has talented people who are good at various abilities. The Keen dynasty loved martial arts, while Dong Hazong liked artistic skills. Although many talented characters have both martial arts skills, they still have biases, like the rest of life in Ye Wachan. Vajayu and others are good examples. But there is a battle platform. The East Keen Academy is invincible, a rhythm battle platform. Many genius figures, even Jiu Biu, the mage of the Dao Demon sect, went up and tried to learn. Almost all of them were defeated. The battles are getting more and more exciting, and the atmosphere is very enthusiastic, but there are also people who find that the students in the hut never show up. At this moment, the hut where the disciples were. Four brothers, why don't you go today? Ye Fusion asked Zhuai. Today is Dong Keen Academy sighting day. What are you going to do? Zhu Ye said. Suppressing their spirits, Ye Fusion said. Dong Keen Academy has suffered an important defeat yesterday. Do you think it will give the lodge today a chance? You will definitely find a way to avoid some threats, just like you, as a country, they launch the battle of heaven and nature. If you don't, you can't participate. Zhu Ye said weakly, even if you can return to some places, how? There are few disciples in Kotang, how many victories do you have? East Keen Academy will prepare for a whole year. On this day, the scenery is unavoidable. Ye Fusion said somewhat depressedly, even so, it is still very unpleasant. Last year in the Keen Palace, the Keen dynasty and Dong Hazong fought against the rest of his life. The prince severely injured the rest of his life with one palm. Now, he had challenged the three brothers against the academy and the thatched hut. Even though he won, he was still very unhappy. Really angry. Zhu Ye smiled and said, Little master, if you play, how much can you do? Ye Fusion blinked and asked, What do you mean, brother? Ordinary wins don't make sense for this academy battle. You win one, and the other can also win one. Because of that, there are only a few of us left in the thatched hut, or we're not strong enough, do you understand? Zhu Ye laughed, while stepping on the other side when the view is beautiful. Ginger is still hot. Ye Fusion looked at the four older brothers, and he was still too young. Zhu Ye looked at Ye Fusion, he is so handsome and handsome, what is old? Can you do it? Zhu Ye asked. Ye Fusion's eyebrows stretched out with a bright smile, and he said, I will try. Have a good rest today. Zhu Ye patted Ye Fusion's shoulder. Ye Fusion nodded, looking at Zhu Ye, brother, are those scholars so honest? Get out of here, Snow Ye froze, then whispered. Her belly is dark, it feels like I'm being taught badly. Ye Fusion left with a smile, and said, all my life, get ready. Zhu Ye looked at Ye Fusion's back, this person needed him to teach him badly. Everyone to each other. In the hut, the second sister is persuaded to convince, they have no ability. As Tongshuye expected, today was indeed the day of the East Keen Academy. On the four major battle platforms, at any stage, the disciples of the East Keen Academy had shown their outstanding talents, especially the musical battle platform. Kung King shot once and defeated the very strong character of Dao Dezong. This made everyone understand that none of the three beauties in the Eastern Wasteland only depended on their beauty, had great power. Talent. On this day, many talented people from all sides came to the stage and wanted to join the East Keen Academy, and it is predictable that in the next few months, I am afraid that this will become a trend in the Eastern Wasteland. Metropolis came to apply to join the Eastern Keen College. This would be an alternative for Donghang Academy. Regarding the fact that the hut did not appear, many people talked about it. The 3 disciples and 5 lodge disciples had already left. Many people know that Luo Fan's 4th disciple, he must not shoot. Then there was only Yi Shaoxi and Ye Fusion. What is Yi Shaoxi's talent? Not many people know about it. Ye Fusion, as many people think, the level is too low, it is useless, this is probably why they did not appear. In this regard, several students in the academy gave their opinions. Today the academy is very sad. However, the grassroots disciples didn't even show their faces, and some people were naturally unhappy. But to various speculations and noises from the outside world, the cottage didn't bother. Pondok doesn't need to care about anyone's opinion and ideas. They have their own style of action. The academy cannot interfere with their will, which is why the relationship between the academy and the lodge is delicate. There is no big figure in the academy who can influence the will of the lodge. In the morning of the next day, outside the East Keen Academy, there were already many people. They all came to occupy the position. If they wanted to watch the battle up close, naturally, some people would want to try to gain the East Keen Academy's recognition. Became a disciple of the East Keen Academy. Yesterday's battle had also been the subject of conversation. I don't know what kind of battle will arise today, except for the two top-level academy clashes, not a single top-level evil spirit among them has ever shot. Chapter 272, Modest or Arrogant. The sun's rays on a spring day with a hint of warmth, sprinkled Choge City. In the downtown area of Choge City, more and more people were gathering. There are more strong people coming today than yesterday, and the top forces have not left. Even if they don't participate in the debate, you can see the combat strength of people from other forces here. How, is also a consideration of their own strength, knowing what level they are at. The debate continued, and the four major battle platforms continued to be challenged by people of different powers, and even many people from Choge City, with the Donghang Academy students as their targets. These people were naturally the disciples of the big families who wanted to join the East Keen Academy. They were the Choge City family. If they could join the East Keen Academy and attach themselves to the Keen dynasty, it would definitely be a very good choice. However, even geniuses could easily defeat academy disciples. Most of the battles ended in failure. Someone suddenly made a sound of surprise towards the people in the academy. After that, many people looked around and saw the cottage disciples arriving, and stood silently beside them. When I saw Kotang's disciples, many people in the academy frowned and felt uncomfortable. Tang Ye even said directly, "You were at the inn yesterday." Yesterday was the day the East Keen Academy challenged the academy. That's very important. At this time, the Kotang disciples disappeared collectively, and the direct consequence was that they were suppressed by the East Keen Academy, especially the failure of the first battle. What's more, he lost his face, and Tang Ye was hit by one hit. Tang Ye's mood can be imagined. Zua looked ahead and ignored, while Yi Shaoxi glanced at Tang Ye and smiled. Yes. You. Tang Ye saw that Yi Shaoxi's nonchalant attitude was ugly, but either way, he didn't know what to say. What qualifications did he show the Kotang disciples? The academy elders could not control the will of the lodge, and he could only endure it when he was upset. Lots of trash. The people in the hut are here. At this time, many eyes were looking at Ye Fusion. The day before that, Jiu Dongyu's hut was fighting the Lord's battle, and the hut's status had once again increased. Besides, the grassroots disciples didn't show up yesterday. Attention all. Gongye Ye is here. A recipe not far from there, the witch Jiu Biu looked at Ye Fusion with a smile and a smile. Mei Mei had a hint of charm, her voice fell, and everyone suddenly saw Ye Fusion and the people in the cottage. The nearby Tao Zi Jiu Qiu glanced at his own little brother, and he was a bit rude. This girl is like this. Ye Fusion smiled and said, "Will you come and serve me?" Jiu Jiku's eyes flashed, his eyes were sharp, and he stabbed Ye Fusion. Did he not receive his warning for the day? Although Ye Fusion felt his eyes, he didn't bother watching the ancient autumn. The people from all the top forces showed an interesting look. Keenly deliberately spread the news that Ye Fusion was taught by the ancient autumn. Now many people know. Ye Fusion, dare to tease the witch. Not a long lesson. Or, now that there is Brother Kotang by his side, his spirit is different, and the ancient autumn can't move him. No, but I want to see Ye Gongzi show the beauty of the ancient and ancient world. The magician's smile is full of charm. In the past, Ye Fusion was at the peak of Mirror Mountain in the ancient and ancient world. He was truly peerless. The people present were not surprised. That sentence is my world that you can understand, and people who know me, and understand my arrogance, it still surprises me when I think back. It was only since then that Kotang's disciple Ye Fusion made a sound in the Keen Palace, but his reputation was further helped by Brother Kotang's aura. Ye Fusion smiled and looked away. Wang Wezong's many fairies fell on Ye Fusion. The female beauty who spoke to Hua Jiu with a slight smile, this man was dishonest on the outside. Seems to go back and talk to the linguist. Chu Yan also looked at Ye Fusion, and he had always been curious about this beloved man. Ye Fusion, the day before yesterday I invited you to avoid war. Now, I challenge you again. Should I fight? Yin family, Yin Yan glanced indifferently at Ye Fusion's side, speaking coldly. On such an occasion, he wanted to see if Ye Fusion still avoided the war. Ye Fusion didn't seem to hear it. He looked in the direction of the East Keen Academy, then smiled, raised his feet, and walked towards the battle platform that had just ended the battle. That battle platform allows arbitrary battle rules. What will she do? All eyes flashed, looking at Ye Fusion. Finally, can't help it. After a while, Ye Fusion stood on the platform, and suddenly, countless eyes focused on him. As soon as I arrived, I immediately stood up, and the cottage disciple was really not polite at all. The disciples of the Qin and Donghazong dynasties all fell on Ye Fusion. They thought, Ye Fusion, who is he going to challenge? Who can challenge in his territory? I heard yesterday that the East Keen Academy's first battle launched a fight to test the training results of the East Keen Academy disciples. Today, I also want to launch a fight. Ye Fusion smiled and said, 1 year ago, I, the rest of my life, Ye Wuchen, who came from a small country in the barren lands of the eastern desert, have been cultivated to a low level, but on such an occasion, I also want to test the results. Practice this year. Everyone showed different colors, and the nature of the eastern wasteland was clearly clear a year ago. In the name of Kangye, it became famous in the ancient world. After that, the main force went to the Kangye kingdom at the border. Now I want to come. Ye Fusion and the rest of my life have indeed come to the eastern wasteland to train for only 1 year. They only attract attention because they enter the hut. After hearing this, the rest of the life in Ye Wuchen understood Ye Fusion's meaning, raised his steps, and came to the battle platform. We have been training in the eastern wasteland for a year, and we are almost the same as the new students and disciples of the East Keen Academy. Currently, cultivation is only the far phase. I am very embarrassed. Today, I want to see some disciples from the East Keen Academy. Ye said Fusion, look polite. What is enchanting is, when did Kotang's disciples become so low? Too simple. For a time, everyone was embarrassed, obviously a cottage disciple, a peerless genius, but in his mouth, it seems that he is just a newcomer who has not practiced for a year, and seems reasonable. This. Many faces of the Qin dynasty and Dong Hazong were dark. Ye Fusion said that, did they really allow the newcomers from Dong Qin Academy to fight Ye Fusion? Are you looking for death? How can that thatched hut disciple be judged by the kingdom? Keenly looked at Ye Fusion and said lightly. Although I entered the hut, I have not proven myself. I have never had such a glorious record. I am ashamed. Today, I challenge the genius of the East Keen Academy, and I am in the mood. Ye Fusion smiled and looked at Ye Fusion in surprise. Is that okay? However, last time it seemed that Keenly himself said that Ye Fusion had never proved himself. Today, Ye Fusion humbly repeated what Keenly said, but how does it feel strange? Even Zutang disciples Zhu Yi and Ye Shaoxi were stunned. It seems that they underestimated Shaoxi's face. Yes. Wang Wezong said that Ciyu's sister smiled sweetly, and what Ciyu said was too bad. Moreover, this person's eyes are clear and honest, and he seems to be saying the same thing. But in fact, although Ye Fusion did not have a glorious record to prove himself, he had fought in the Qin dynasty, which did not mean that ordinary people in the same world could compete. The rest of the life is the same, the combat effectiveness is extremely ruthless. Coupled with Ye Wuchen, the sword of the seventh peak Fuyun Janzong, many people have known that Ye Wuchen killed Li Doin who entered the sky. 3 people like that, Ye Fusion wanted him to fight with the new French disciples at Dong Qin Academy. The hut student, Fuyun Janzong Janzi, is too simple and hypocritical, Qin Li said coldly. Should the East Qin Academy fight? As soon as Qin Li's words fell, Ye Fusion's tone suddenly sharpened, and he said, or can East Qin Academy only be able to attack with premeditated tactics? Qin Li taking leaked Ye Fusion. At this moment, Qin Yu said faintly, I don't have anyone in the East Qin Academy who can maintain the status of the lodge disciples. We don't need to argue, we confess. Qin Yu's words fell, and many people showed a strange look. The East Qin Academy was very beautiful yesterday. Not long before today. It is not easy for Ye Fusion to admit defeat, but everyone knows that if it is a battle, in the end. In the same way, Ye Fusion was crushed by some people, on the contrary, he would not fight at all, and there would be no chance for Ye Fusion to appear. Of course, if you personally want to challenge, we can give it a try. Qin Yu also said, Ye Fusion's realm should not be too high, and so far, he may not have stepped into the high-level legal phase. Moreover, even if he really lost in the hands of Ye Fusion, the other party is a disciple of Kotang. Boring. Ye Fusion shook his head lightly, and he said, if I fight across the border, can I use a magic weapon? If you challenge the sky position, of course. Qin Yu nodded. Even if the prince's weapon has a strong upgrade, it must also be based on his own strength. The same applies to the will of the prince. Of course, the most talented figure of the peak army had the will of the prince. Okay. Ye Fusion nodded, then shrugged, looking at Ye Vachan and the rest of his life. Before he started, it ended like this. Of course, Ye Fusion didn't seem to want to end there. After Ye Vachan and the rest of his life left, he lifted his leg and walked towards the nearest battle platform. There, a Donghazong disciple who was good at rhythm had just won the victory. Seeing Ye Fusion's arrival, everyone looked at him one after another, wanting to challenge Dongba Zongshan to become a strong man with rhythm. The Donghazong disciple looked at Ye Fusion and laughed, "Challenge me." Ye Fusion shook his head, making the man shocked. "The people around me are confused." But at this moment, Ye Fusion looked through the crowd and looked towards the East Keen Academy. His eyes fell on the figure, where Qian Shenmu was standing there. Seeing Ye Fusion's eyes, many people's eyes froze. "Ye Fusion, what do you want to do?" "Although I don't understand the rhythm, today I still want to see the first person of the younger generation in the Eastern Wasteland." Ye Fusion said slowly. Kotang disciple, Ye Fusion, please advise. Chapter 273, Short like thunder. In one word, it was like a thunderbolt. Straw disciple Ye Fusion challenged Qian Shenmu. In the past, the Qing dynasty captured the prince. A piano in the Qing palace causes conflict. At that time, Ye Fusion had shot it and practiced it as a fourth-order method. Now less than a year ago, even if he trained fast, where could he be strong? It was likely only the sixth-order method phase, and even if he practiced fast enough, it was only the seventh-order method phase. Twilight Qianshan has entered the realm of heaven. Of course, the world will not doubt the strength of the Kotang disciples, even if he has never proven himself for real, but he will still be very strong. But who is the opponent? Qian Shenmu, who is known as the first person of the younger generation of temperament, should consider such people, even if they are fighting in the same environment. What's more, if the small world and the big world are crossed, can the magic tool make up for it? Ye Fusion was too impulsive. In everyone's eyes, he should not have chosen Qian Shenmu as his opponent. This idiot. On the other side of the academy, Tang Ye and the others were stunned, then whispered in a low voice. Before the three of them, Ye Fusion stepped on the battlefield and forced Qing Yu to admit defeat. Challenge Qian Shenmu, who is he? This was not the peak of Mirror Mountain, and there were no remains of a statue for him to borrow. This is the battlefield. Jiu Biu's beautiful eyes showed a strange expression, and her smile was very seductive. This person is so amazing. Even the people of the Qin and Donghazong dynasties were stunned, and then King Li showed a strange smile. Who is Ye Fusion who is not good at challenging, and he wants to challenge Qian Shenmu? The thatched hut disciples were really arrogant and overbearing. Among the crowd, Qian Shan looked at Ye Fusion at dusk. Ye Fusion claimed that he didn't understand the rhythm. This was the word he gave Ye Fusion at the beginning. Now that Ye Fusion said, would he ask him for advice on rhythm? At this moment, when they saw Ye Fusion take off the package on his back and take the gukan out of it, clearly, he was already prepared. Those who saw the scene became even more brilliant. Does he know what he's doing? Su Muge frowned. Ye Fusion, trying to challenge Qian Shenmu with rhythm. Qian Shenmu is the best in melodies. In the first battle before, Qian Shenmu was equipped with a melody. Su Muge couldn't stand Qian Shenmu's melodic spell. Now Ye Fusion wants to challenge the best Qian Shenmu. Are you seeking death? Can you be quiet? The rest of his life glanced at the voice coming from the academy next to him, and said coldly. Her struggle isn't just about herself. Su Muge stared coldly at the rest of his life. Who knows the status of the hut? If Ye Fusion is destroyed, what will the world think? Is it embarrassing to take the door? Would you like to let me go? Yi Shaoxi brushed off Su Muge. It was really noisy. Since the young master challenged him, naturally he had the young master's righteousness. The four elder brothers said that if the students in the lodge wanted to go to war, they had to do something extraordinary. If we can defeat Qian Shenmu, we can naturally achieve this effect. On the melody battle stage, the figure opposite Ye Fusion sneered at Ye Fusion with a sneer and disdain. Challenge Qian Shenmu. Joke. Turning around, he got off the stage. Donghazong's people all showed an interesting look. Before Lu Nanshan's defeat against Jiu Dongyu's Donghazong, they all breathed a sigh of relief, and now the grass church disciple Ye Fusion took the initiative to fight, only to take the hut seriously. Qian Shenmu walked to the platform and stood opposite Ye Fusion. Under the battle platform, King Mengruo, who was now his wife, now had a feeling of arrogance in her eyes. How her husband's achievements in rhythm were challenged by Ye Fusion. Although he knew that Ye Fuxian was also good at melodies, he played the world against Ji Yuming in the Qin Palace at first, and Ji Yuming knelt under his control. Ye Fuxian slammed Qian Shenmu back and forth to mock him that he didn't understand the rhythm. Today, does he want to prove his ability in rhythm again? Therefore, pay the price. Donghazong Qianshan Twilight, please advise. Qian Shenmu started to say the same thing, and then he sat cross-legged, and the two sat facing each other. One took Gukan, and the other was Gada. However, this time there will be no more Kantha and Ming, but Kantha will fight. The sound of the piano and the sound of thirst sounded at the same time. The sound of the piano was crisp, the sound of thirst was thick, and two completely different styles of rhythm were played on the stage. The songs played by the Qianshan Twilight are extraordinary, and the invisible force gathers around the heavens and the earth. The resonance echoes with the heavens and the earth, so that there is a majestic momentum flowing around the heavens and the earth. Although it has not bloomed yet, but it still gives people the feeling that once this rhythm breaks, they will be able to destroy everything. There will be no tension in this battle. Qian Shenmu, who is the first person in the younger generation of music, can naturally crush Ye Fuxian. Compared to the majestic momentum in the Qianshan Twilight song, Ye Fuxian's piano voice is soft, without any novelty, it feels melodious and peaceful, and the song is too simple. This makes many people look strange. Ye Fuxian is relying on this song to fight against Qian Shenmu. The melody changes a lot, but it also has its peculiarities. First, the tone is set, giving rise to various tactics. Qian Shenmu's tone sounded very impressive when he heard it, but Ye Fuxian's piano voice was like a joke. Can such a tone be able to withstand Qian Shenmu's punch? In the direction of Dong Hazong, there is a woman with beautiful eyes looking at Ye Fuxian. There is a hint of curiosity in her pure eyes. She is Hua Kangking. His mother spoke in all rhythms. He has been influenced by rhythm since he was a child. Has a very sharp perception. From Ye Fuxian's piano sound, he felt something special. Simple, pure and clean, the sound of the piano contains no impurities, and the heart is like a child's. However, such a piano could actually withstand Qian Shenmu's impending attack. His eyes were a little curious. With the melody gradually becoming a trend, Qian Shenmu's body contained a tremendous momentum. Suddenly, his right hand and 5 fingers beat violently, like a thunder, a flat wave, a terrible mental storm. Instantly turned into thousands of sharp swords, killed towards Ye Fuxian. In just one moment, people felt the meaning of killing in music. At this time, they developed the illusion, Ye Fuxian, as if in a desperate situation. What's interesting is that Ye Fuxian didn't resist the attack with piano sound magic, but still played quietly. Everyone seemed to see thousands of sword rains stabbed into Ye Fuxian's mind. Will Ye Fuxian be so vulnerable? Ye Fuxian's body seemed to tremble slightly, but the sound of the piano was not disturbed. He continued to play quietly, as if the attack had disappeared. Many people looked relieved to see this scene. Although they expected Ye Fuxian's defeat, they would be disappointed if Kotang's disciple was crushed so easily. Qian Shenmu naturally understood how Ye Fuxian did it. He used the prince's will to cooperate with the sound of the piano to create a layer of spiritual defense. In Ye Fuxian's mind, he can feel the will of the dragon, hovering there, guarding its will. Not active Qian Shenmu is still playing, and the attacks are endless. Around Ye Fuxian's body, there seems to be a rainstorm, and the endless spiritual sword pierces into Ye Fuxian's mind. However, Ye Fuxian's piano sounded and Yang was heavily guarded there, turning into a long, and occasionally yin dragon sound came out, destroying the spirit attacking power. The strength of the spirit defense is very strong. The prince will cooperate with the prince's magic weapon. It seems that Qian Shenmu can't easily kill Ye Fuxian in a second. Secrets people say secretly. But how is Qian Shenmu's attack nothing more than that? Except for the endless spiritual attacks, a terrifying storm aura appeared around his body, and the music he played whistled between heaven and earth. A terrible coercion enveloped the battlefield, and there was destruction. Faint heavens and earth. Such an accumulation of power, once it erupts, will be extremely powerful. Boom! A thunder exploded in the heavens and the earth, and the power of the thunder rummaged in the direction of Ye Fuxian's body. With a melody blooming spell, Qian Shenmu naturally could do it. Ye Fuxian still lowered his head and played as if he had not seen it. When the power of thunder slashed, he was pulled into the sound of the surrounding piano, and turned into an aura that flowed through his body. But above Ye Fuxian's head, an endless aura of madness converged and flowed into a terrifying pattern. This pattern crazily absorbed the auras of all the heaven and earth attributes, and released 7 dazzling colors of brilliance. Flowing, the pattern gradually formed, and the endless rhythm spurred the flow of aura. With everyone's shocking gaze, a terrifying Reiki array appeared above Ye Fusion's head. This. Many people's hearts skipped a beat, watching the law formation born above Ye Fusion's head. The pattern swirled, the aura dissipated, and they turned into a storm of law formations. A dark vortex appeared around them, devouring all the power, and faintly releasing a grievous destruction. Terrible rhythm technique. It's not just limited to releasing spells with rhythm, but various voids with rhythm, coercion that kills everything. It feels like it's enough to destroy everything. Even though Qian Shenmu immediately stepped into the heavenly realm, just how terrifying was the attack power of the void engraved with the prince's strong talent and will. Ye Fusion, can he endure it? The previous attack was basically a minor attack. At this moment, Qian Shenmu's real attack began. Ye Fusion continued to fight, which would likely be a disaster. Many people looked at Qian Shanmu. It seemed that although Qian Shanmu remained calm, in fact, there was a tiger in his heart, and he had to be defeated by Lu Nanshan for Jiu Dongyu. He was very unhappy. Today, this shot will push Ye Fusion into a stalemate and crush him with thunder. Many eyes were on Ye Fusion. How could this person resist this kind of power? If you admit directly at this time, you can avoid Qian Shenmu's attack. Chapter 274, Musical Battle. At this time, Ye Fusion is still sitting there quietly. He has a handsome face and a transcendent temperament. His 10 slender fingers are pounding the strings, and there is no influence on his playing because of the terrible scene in the void. At this time, he was serious and considerate. Taishan fainted in front and did not change his color, but only played the piano quietly. At this time, people seemed to be changing into a beautiful artistic conception, faintly giving Ye Fusion a secretive heart, as if worried that he will be swallowed up into nothingness and reduced to dust in the spurt. In the sky above Ye Fusion's head, the vision is getting more and more terrifying, and the magic array that devours the endless aura is like a fierce beast, capable of killing everything. Finally, Qian Shenmu's fingers swept across the thread. The terrifying spiritual will was wrapped in a storm above Ye Fusion's head, the dark clouds above the city, and the sky was dark, as if the devil was born. The thunder roared, the wind howled, and then towards the base of the leaf. Many people were tensed and stared at the scene before them. This sight was too terrifying. Is that really what the Fa people can fight? Even the arrogant figure in the next place couldn't withstand this level of attack. The storm that destroyed everything came. The king of King Luo came to the coldest eyes, clenched his fists. He couldn't wait for Ye Fusion to directly crush and die in the storm. Only in this way can the danger of the Nandu country be resolved, otherwise, sooner or later, Ye Fusion will be liquidated. On the other side of the academy, Tang Ye, Su Muge, and others saw no sympathy in this scene. If Ye Fu was killed in this way, he could only be killed by himself stupidly. When the storm fell on Ye Fusion's body, at this moment, around Ye Fusion's body, the invisible sound wave that had permeated suddenly let out a sharp sound, and the invisible mental storm was all around his body. It was shaved, and every time a spell came, it would be cut and cut instantly. Then, it will turn into a scattered aura, wrapped in a storm and flowing around Ye Fusion's body. As a result, under everyone's eyes, they saw an extremely shocking sight. The forces of destruction like the end of the day came, but they were constantly cut off by mental storms. When they play the piano, they seem to unknowingly a terrifying mental defense power is arranged around his body, which can destroy all spell attacks from killing. Mantras are motivated by mental power. Even if the spells of the spell array are engraved, they are still released by mental motivation. Strong people who are good at attacking by mental strength can also destroy the spell with mental attacks. The sound of the piano sounded loudly, and the magic circle above Ye Fusion's head released a spell attack, but Ye Fusion's fingers hit the strings faster and faster, like flowing clouds, playing a beautiful movement. No matter how violent the storm and the waves are, I will not move, there is not enough force to shake it. At this moment, above the handsome figure, the prince's strength was faintly revealed. Good defense means. The eyes of the people stared ahead. Even though they used the power of the prince's instrument, it could be seen that Ye Fusion had to be very proficient in music. Late afternoon at the twilight of Qianshan, there was a wave of waves in his heart. Ye Fusion played the piano without any special skills. However, he first built a defense. As a master of piano sound, Ye Fusion knows what rhythm attacks mean, right away. Mental attack, this kind of attack is very threatening. Su Muge was vulnerable under this attack before. But Ye Fusion, the first defense is mental strength, like a panlong guarding his mind, it is difficult to attack. The second type of attack, naturally, was to use a spell to induce a spell attack. Ye Fuxian also set up his defense, gathered his spirit into an invisible storm, and cut off all spells that were close to his body, so that the spell could not get close to his body. Ye Fuxian not only understands rhythm, but also has a deep understanding of rhythm. Qian Shen Mu had to admit it now. Of course, knowing it was the same thing. Ye Fuxian can defend his musical attack. This is Ye Fuxian's ability. Even with a magic weapon, it was still difficult to hide his achievements on the piano sound. There was no spell cast by the magic array that could break Ye Fuxian's defense. Qian Shenmu understood that it was almost impossible to use sound to push the spell to defeat him. Then, there is only one method left, which is also a fundamental measure of how strong a person is in achieving a melody. The melody is used as a mood to influence, control, or kill. At the beginning of the Qin Palace, Ye Fuxian did this to Ji Yuming and convinced Ji Yuming to surrender. Then under the control of his voice, Ji Yuming couldn't help but be in the mood and actually knelt on the ground. Qian Shenmu's success in music is beyond doubt. He changed his fingers and moved the strings. Without realizing it, his voice gradually changed. As Qian Shenmu played, his body seemed to have a more sacred meaning and brilliance, and even a beautiful image was born in the minds of many. Qian Shenmu's body faintly bloomed. Next, ghosts appeared one after another, all of which were in the picture. Holy music. Not many people have seen this song, but Hua Kangking is definitely one of them. The sound of the song is an attack song with a very strong artistic conception. In a contest with Ye Fuxian's melody, Qian Shenmu played the song. In Hua Kangking's consciousness, there is also a picture, thousands of mountains and twilight, like a saint, he spat out his voice, like a holy word, a wave of his palm, like the meaning of a saint. Suddenly, there is a sword whistling and a beast appears, towards Ye Fuxian. At this time, Ye Fuxian felt the strongest mood, because the song was his target. He seemed to see Qian Shenmu incarnate as a saint, light enveloped him, holy words turned into sharp swords, and he shot towards him. The sacred meaning turned into a true dragon, a phoenix, and a unicorn. Maybe stuck. At this time, countless mistakes in life, Ye Fuxian looks like a weak scholar, how to fight a sage. One word can punish him, and one thought can kill him. But the weak scholar still played quietly. Facing storms, he always calmly composes and plays his own moves. Under the sound of his harp, the beast that was drawn and attacked by the sharp sword was crushed. Even if you came threateningly, I still stood still. From his body, from the sound of Ye Fuxian's piano, everyone seemed to see some kind of power. Gradually, Ye Fuxian's piano voice became a little louder, but it remained stable, and he improved slightly, destroying the attack on the rhythm issued to him. At the same time, he kept his heart intact and his heart would never waver. With his piano sound breaking through the void, everyone felt that the weak scholar seemed to be growing in the storm. The book business was angry, and he threw Fang Yan. The will of the prince permeated his body. Ye Fuxian's temperament became more and more extraordinary, as if he had unknowingly changed, but he had always been so resolute. A peerless spirit gradually emerged from it. When Wensheng's education grew under the baptism of the storm, and finally stood in the center of the stage and challenged the tall figure. Some strong characters are not completely influenced by Qin Yan's mood, and they are still thinking. From Ye Fuxian Qin Yan, they have truly experienced the baptism and growth of life. That Qin Yan is like a process, a growth process. It feels great, but very natural. The sound of the piano became loud and intense, until it wanted to pierce the sky. In the head of the crowd, it seems that a young man came to the prince, and then to the growth of the emperor. At this time, the young man playing is no longer like a weak scholar in the text. He has a straight spine, a dragon-like body, and the sound of a dragon on the piano is heard. The spiritual power that attacked Ye Fuxian was constantly being crushed and crushed. The ever-growing piano sound was like that of an iron rider of an emperor. In the illusory image, Qian Shenmu and Ye Fuxian faced each other, like a confrontation between a saint and an emperor. What is the melody? The real melody is to match the mood and completely displace people into the world of melodies. Qian Shenmu claims that he does not understand rhythm. If it is about how to kill the sound of rhythm and change, he is not as good as Qian Shenmu. However, this year, he has a deeper understanding of rhythm. In the artistic conception, he believes that he can stand invincible. The melody of the harmonious combination of chaos and the world is innate. How it failed, he pushed the emperor's tactics to be incorporated into the sound of the piano, making the artistic conception stronger and visible, and everyone just thought that this was the artistic conception brought by the piano sound itself, and would not take it as the effect of practice. In the nihilistic image, two huge figures appeared as if to let Kangxin step on his feet. The desire of the two figures continues to grow stronger, but the sacred figure has been from the beginning, but the figure of the emperor has grown, until it can finally penetrate the sky and control the mountains. The vast space is condensed for this. At this time, everyone can feel the artistic conception embodied in the rhythm, and can feel the confrontation. Ye Fusion turned out to be fighting the pure mountains with a pure tone. The figure is very upright at this time, and with the increase in the sound of the piano, the meaning of the emperor is still stronger. Finally, with an invisible tremor, the sacred body collapsed, and then Qian Shenmu felt an irresistible pressure of desire coming. Kang! Gada made a loud noise, and countless eyes turned to it. Broken rope. Qian Shenmu's hand froze there. With a buzzing sound, Qian Shenmu vomited blood and stained gauze. The first person of the younger generation in the world of barbarism lost to the disciple of Kotang, Ye Fusion, in a pure music confrontation. At this time, Qian Shenmu heard what King Wang Palace said to Ye Fusion. You don't understand the rhythm at all. He doesn't understand the rhythm, who knows? Chapter 275, Invincible. Ye Fusion was still playing the piano, the high-pitched piano sound gradually became low, and the emperor's intent on his body was scattered. Finally, the music stops with the beat of the notes. Ye Fusion slowly raised his head, his gaze looked towards the twilight of Qianshan, his clothes were white as snow, his hair was clean, his eyes were like stars, and his handsome face looked even brighter now. At the end of my life, I face the sky, and if there is a storm, I will become an emperor. The vast endless void accompanied by the loss of rhythm suddenly became extremely calm, and countless eyes stared at the two figures on the battle platform. Qian Shan Twilight looked at the broken Gada, as if still unwilling to believe that he would lose. Dong Hua Zong couldn't believe it and couldn't accept it. King Mengruo's face was pale, her husband was beaten by Ye Fusion in terms of rhythm. Hua Kangking's beautiful eyes stared at the handsome white figure. What he paid attention to was not Ye Fusion's victory, but Ye Fusion's piano music and artistic conception in music. He didn't use the piano sound to start the spell. Attacking, but only expressing the mood with rhythm, perseverance, grew from a teenager to the incarnation of the emperor, Ling Yunshindi. The mood of his piano sound continued to grow, until he completely crushed Qian Shenmu. Perhaps his achievements in melody might not be better than Qian Shenmu's, but the world he sensed from the sound of his piano was wider than Qian Shenmu's. Even the people in the academy were shocked by the outcome of this battle, especially Tang Ye and Su Muge who had previously snubbed Ye Fusion. When they saw the disciples around the academy, they only felt heat on their faces. For the rest of his life, he felt that this should be taken for granted. Only he has blind faith in Ye Fusion. He looked at Tang Ye with the same cold gaze, and said coldly, I used to be at the peak of Mirror Mountain in the ancient world. Shameless. Tang Ye froze, staring at the rest of his life, his face embarrassed. Is he able to understand his world? In the future, you better keep your mouth shut. The rest of his life is coldly exposed, and the wild eyes are threatening. Tang Ye gritted his teeth and threatened him for the rest of his life. But for the rest of his life, he did not pay attention to his thoughts at all, and turned his eyes away after saying that sentence, and ignored Tang Ye's existence. The crowd of the vast space gradually heard a low voice. Qian Shenmu likes. I don't know who uttered the sound, and the crowd exploded. Qian Shenmu, who was known as the first person of the Eastern Vasteland's young melody, was defeated in the melody. So, can he still be called the first person? The eyes of Tianzhao among the main team fell on Ye Fusion. Although Ye Fusion's realm is slightly lower, the realm will sooner or later rise. Thatched hut, there will be another Jiu Dongyu-like figure. Dong Hazong's two crimes, Lu Nanshan defeated Jiu Dongyu, Qian Shenmu agreed in the hands of Ye Fusion. Dong Hazong was defeated in a frontal battle with the thatched hut. Ye Fusion wrapped Gukun in his package. He was not in a hurry and did not mock Qian Shenmu's defeat. Beating an opponent with rhythm is the best response in itself, and all words are pale and weak. What song are you playing? Qian Shenmu looked up at this moment and looked at Ye Fusion. What he played was holy music, voice of saints, which was very difficult to play, even more difficult to show his artistic conception, but he could do it, but he was still defeated. Ye Fusion looked at Qian Shenmu and said, I play to my heart's content, I don't know what it is. After saying that, he turned around and raised his feet, ready to leave. Qian Shenmu's face froze, showing a hint of embarrassment. Ye Fusion said that he was playing casually. Even though you won, why are you so hypocritical? Ye Fusion's musical achievements are very high, and he naturally admits, but Ye Fusion said that he played to his heart's content, deliberately humiliating him. Ye Fusion paused, smiled, and said, "What is rhythm? Although they can be used in battle, they are given to them with spiritual attacks. True rhythm lies in the rhythm itself. It is pure and communicates with the mind. You said I don't understand rhythm. I don't really understand it, but do you really understand?" After all, Ye Fusion continued to raise his footsteps, and Qian Shan's eyes froze. Do you really understand? At this moment, Qian Shanmu was skeptical of himself. He lowered his head, looked at the broken strings, and was thinking. His mind seemed to have taken a huge blow. At this moment, a beautiful figure came to his side. He saw Qian Shanmu struggle and questioned himself. This is the man. He deliberately attacked your state of mind. King Mengruo said to Qian Shanmu, your rhythm is not weaker than anyone's. If you don't defend with magic weapons, victory is already yours. He can't keep up with your rhythm attacks. Qian Shanmu looked up and looked at his wife King Mengruo. She was still as beautiful as that. Her noble and beautiful eyes had strong faith and trust in her. The two eyes were opposite. Qian Shanmu's eyes gradually returned a gleam of confidence. As the pride of Donghua Zongshan, he has his own advantages. No matter his mood or desire, he is extraordinary. Just because this battle hit him so hard, he lost to Ye Fusion in the field of law in his best rhythm, and he represented Donghua Zong. Ye Fusion represented the thatched hut, and everyone thought he would when he crushed Ye Fusion. He lost, and for a while it's unbearable. Wait. At this time, a voice suddenly came out. Ye Fusion's steps stopped again, and he looked back, looking at the East Qin Academy. The speaker was Qin Li, the defeat of Qian Shanmu, who hid the East Qin Academy. If Ye Fusion was left with victory in this way, no matter who they challenged, they would not be able to recover the losses from this battle. Since you still insist that you don't understand rhythm, what are you good at? King left his mouth and asked. Beats Qian Shanmu on the melody, but claims that he doesn't understand the melody, which is naturally hypocritical. In that case, he will ask, what can you get from Ye Fusion? What do you want to do? Ye Fusion looked at King Li and asked with a smile. Budo, good at that. King Li asked. Okay, Ye Fusion replied. King Mang. King Li shouted, and suddenly a figure appeared. That person's body wasn't as burly as the rest of his life, but standing there gave him a very strong feeling. His eyes were sharp and his eyes looked like the terrible Ye Fusion monster, full of wild breath. King Mang started the martial arts battle platform. He is a descendant of the royal blood of the Qin dynasty. There are 5 dragon veins on his body, and his martial arts talent is extraordinary. His cultivation was the peak of the French phase. King Mang, cultivation of the state of law, the main martial arts, challenge you with the martial arts, are you fighting? King Li looked at Ye Fusion. Everyone's eyes were bulging, and they naturally understood that some of the great powers of several bloodline characters with strong talent in the Qin dynasty also knew that this King Mang, the descendant of the Qin dynasty's bloodline, had 5 dragon veins in the body, and martial arts talent. Very great. Besides, he was in the realm of law. In this way, Ye Fusion's disciple, he has no reason to use magic weapons. Although Ye Fusion's realm is certainly lower than King Mang's, but he is a straw disciple. He has attracted a lot of attention. Isn't it normal to be low in battle? King Li used this to try to beat Ye Fusion with King Mang to prove something. Are you sure you want to challenge with martial arts? Ye Fusion glanced at King Li. King Li looked at the frivolous meaning in Ye Fusion's eyes, his brows bulged, and said, naturally. Ye Fusion glanced at King Li with a smile, then he walked back to the hut, handed the Gukun package to the rest of his life, then turned around and walked towards the martial arts battle platform. Many eyes moved with Ye Fusion's figure, and being able to beat Qian Shanmu with a rhythm meant that Ye Fusion was a spiritual destiny mage, but King Li was challenging martial arts. In his mouth, what kind of achievements does Ye Fusion, who has never proven himself, have in martial arts? On the platform, Ye Fusion looked at King Mang and said, are you ready? His voice was relaxed and frivolous. King Mang looked at him, and said coldly, okay. When the words fell, a wild breath ran wild in his body, and there was a faint shadow of a dragon, and not only one dragon shadow, but 5 heads. Suddenly, the breath on King Mang's body was terrible. The dragon emperor was determined to run, the 5 dragons surrounded him, and a faint dragon voice came out. He, who was at the peak of the French phase, opened his 5 dragons and his combat effectiveness was truly extraordinary. At this moment, a stick appeared in Ye Fusion's hand, and he was born with an energy aura. He held it in his hands at will, the momentum that bloomed from his body instantly, and became stronger and stronger. Boom! The battle platform trembled, King Mang's footsteps stepped, True Dragon's bodyguard, Long Shao's explosion, and 5 dragons swirled. At this moment, Qin Mang flew in the air, not for a lifetime. Behind him, it was as if a dragon statue appeared. Like totems, Ye Fusion's body moved, and he dashed towards the front. He flew through the air at any moment. His body fluttered and floated in the void, and the momentum became stronger and stronger, approaching Qin Mang head-on. Since this is a martial arts battle, it is naturally a fight. Roar. There seemed to be a long howling sound, and the void trembled. Qin Mang and the 5 true dragons were killed in anger, and the flying Ye Fusion looked very small and vulnerable. But the momentum on Ye Fusion is getting stronger and stronger. Finally, Long Ying descended and slid towards Ye Fusion, but saw his body turning downwards, and the long stick in his hand slashed at the real dragon. 9 strikes in the sky, opened the world. At this time, a huge stick figure appeared between the heavens and the earth. Everyone saw Ye Fusion rushing into the dragon shadow, and then a loud sound. They saw that Long Ying was split open from the middle, and Ye Fusion's long stick directly banged on Qin Mang's body. The next moment, Qin Mang's body flew straight towards the East Qin Academy crowd, and with a loud bang, it fell to the ground, right in front of Qin Li. Susceptible. Ye Fusion's figure floated, and the long stick had disappeared from his hand. He glanced at Qin Li and smiled, the genius of the Qin dynasty, what is this power? Chapter 276, Wilder Attack. Ye Fusion's voice was slightly soft, making the vast space silent again. Qin Mang, the peak of the French phase, has 5 dragon veins, and his combat effectiveness is extraordinary. However, it was really ironic that Qin Li was directly bombarded in front of Qin Li without a stick. Especially before Qin Li targeted Ye Fusion several times, he said a few words that devalued Ye Fusion, so at this time. First, he used an instrument to beat Qian Shenmu with rhythm, and then he swept Qin Mang with a stick. Does it need to prove itself? The crowd suddenly remembered the big disciples and the 3 disciples. They had never proven themselves before, but when they did, it was a disaster for their opponents. Dao Sheng reached himself on behalf of the floating cloud sword sect. Jiu Dongyu first destroyed the first-class power, and then stepped on the southern road to seal the gods. Today, it seems the same. Ye Fusion stepped on Qianshan Mu, stepped on the genius of the Qin dynasty, let the world see the light of another Kotang disciple. Qin Li didn't speak, what else could he say? The facts have more impact than any words. The challenge was started by him. What was the result? At this time, the people of the Qin dynasty and Dong Hazong looked at Ye Fusion very coldly, especially Qin Li and Qin Mengruo. It is worthy of being a disciple of Kotang. At this time, Qin Yu suddenly said, East Qin Academy martial arts debate, can witness the strength of the 8 Kotang disciples, Qin Mang is treated unfairly. However, because of your victory, negate Qin dynasty, it is really cottage style, and it's too proud. Ye Fusion looked at Qin Yu with a smile, before Qin Yu's son Qin Li looked down on him so badly, in public sarcasm that he did not prove himself, but now he has defeated the Qin dynasty, but he sings it. How hypocritical. Hypocrisy is fine, but still loudmouth, this is not true. Ye Fusion smiled, Prince Qin is too famous, maybe I said something wrong before. The Qin dynasty is the highest power in the eastern wasteland, and now the East Qin Academy was created. It must be strong, the battle really can't witness the explanation, maybe because I have not proven my strength before, so the Qin dynasty did not send any real power to fight. In this case, Ye Fusion wants to continue to teach the real Tianzhou character of the Qin dynasty. By the way, Ye Fusion stretched out his hand, disciple Ye Fusion, martial arts cultivation as the 7th order realm of law, and anyone who challenges any realm of law, please advise. This. Everyone heard Ye Fusion's words slightly dumbfounded. Qin dynasty, this is a disgrace. Qin Yu said that only one battle would deny the Qin dynasty, and Ye Fusion continued to challenge. Qin Yu claimed that the students in the lodge were too proud, and Ye Fusion immediately condescended and despised the Qin dynasty. Moreover, he frankly stated that his specific realm of martial arts was the 7th order law. Not too challenging anyone in any legal situation. Even if he is a disciple of Kotang, the Qin dynasty is also a supreme power. What made you two? In fact, everyone knows that Qin Mang is already a top figure in the French dynasty in the Qin dynasty, otherwise Qin Li will not let him fight. Because Qin Mang was killed by a single spike, at the level of the far phase, no matter who it is, defeat is an inevitable result, and there will be no tension. Ye Fusion, he didn't save face for Qin Yu at all. Many eyes were on Qin Yu. They could almost imagine Qin Yu's current mood. It is estimated that they want to kill Ye Fusion immediately. King Gongzi is really bad. In the direction of the demon sect, the mage Jiu Biu whispered laughter, which made King Yu unable to get off the stage. Beside him, Dao Zigu Qiu's eyes also looked at Ye Fusion. It seems that he underestimated Ye Fusion before. With the talent he showed today, if he really stepped into the sky, he would definitely become a top villain. Even if you don't use a magic weapon, I am afraid that you can still compete with Qianshan Mu. Not only did Jiu Biu have such thoughts, the fairy figure Wang Wezong who had seen Ye Fusion also felt that the person Siyu she liked was too bad. But looking at it, it still makes people feel very comfortable. The handsome face and light smile seemed to have an extraordinary charm. What's more, when he played the piano before, he was as pure as a child, and as imperial as he was. What kind of person was this? No need, you have already taught the strength of the 8 disciples in the hut, and why do you have to fight again and again? King Yu's voice was a little stiff, and he rejected Ye Fusion's challenge. Fighting again is nothing but humiliation. Better to just give up. Although it is also criticized, but with Ye Fusion's shameless character, who knows when he will fight? Too bad I can't come. Ye Fusion looked at King Yu with a smile, then turned around and walked towards the bottom of the battle platform. As soon as he got off the battle platform, he said, for the rest of your life, you will teach the East Qin Academy. The power of Tianzhao. The 4 seniors said that the disciples in Kotang also did not take action. As it was about to fire, it made Dongkan Academy completely out of rage. Aren't you going to Ayu? Then Ayu. Okay. The rest of his life nodded, stepped forward, and set foot on the stage. Everyone looked at the scene with stunned looks. That's what the lodge is doing. The rest of his life was burly. With a single glance, it gave off a sense of violence, with endless power all over his body. This is the character that took Yin Ding Mo Ding. It is said that Buddha only lifted Ding Ding 4 feet at that time. The rest of his life took Ding Ding head on, sparking conflict, and the Yin family suffered heavy losses. For the rest of my life, thatched hut chopping wood, 7th order law phase, challenging anyone in the East Qin Academy to practice any law, there is no limit to practice. The rest of his life calmly spoke, his voice did not rise and fall, but it made people feel that they were ignoring everything. It seemed that the people from the Dong Qin Academy had not been considered at all. Like Ye Fusion, he was at the 7th level of the Fa phase, challenging anyone with any Fa phase. Moreover, he was not a hut disciple, but a minced carpenter. The battleground for the rest of life is a battlefield of arbitrary challenges. It does not limit the occupation of people from the East Qin Academy, and it can be people of any ability. Looking at the figure standing there for the rest of my life, the 4 people felt the 4 words very clearly at this moment. No one saw. Regardless of Ye Fusion or the rest of his life, the people who came out of the hut did not even look at the East Qin Academy. As King Yu said, Kotang's disciple was too proud. Even though the rest of his life claimed to be a log-fired hut guy, was it really a log-fired hut guy? This is the person who made the 4 prince statues on the Jingshan stone wall in the ancient world, and took Yin Ding. King Yuan. A voice came out, King Yu shouted someone's name, and suddenly a big temperament figure stepped forward and stepped onto the stage. King Yuan. Many people's eyes bulged. King Yuan is also a king and a grandson, but not the son of King Yu, but the son of another king prince, the grandson of the king, and the original Qin dynasty. King Yuan, martial arts master, and destiny mage, opened the 6 dragon veins. Compared to the previous King Mang, King Yuan's strength was only strong but not weak. It was said that King Yuan's talent was second only to King Li among the many kings and grandchildren of the Qin dynasty. When King Yuan stepped on the battle platform, a totem dragon appeared behind him faintly, the Fa phase bloomed, and the dragon circled around. I saw the golden dragon head scream directly, swallowing the rest of its life. For the rest of his life, his eyes were indifferent, and those eyes looked indifferently forward, and a dark golden magic light flowed on him. Oh! Demon-like wings appeared, and the rest of his life stepped forward. When the dragon shadow killed, the demon wings behind him were severed and slid out, turning into the sharpest blades, each of them streaking on the wings. Yudas poked out, and they were all invincible, killing the dragon shadow directly from the raw. This. People looked at the rest of their lives, which only insulted King Yuan's existence. They didn't care about his attack at all, and they didn't pay any attention to him. The rest of his life isn't fast, but he's taking big strides. Every step seemed to show the power of violence and gave people an invisible feeling of oppression. Especially for King Yuan, he seemed to see an unshakable demonic figure walking towards him step by step. In Qin Yuan's hands, a more vicious atmosphere bloomed, and the two broke apart, and the power of the martial arts merged into one. The terrifying golden dragons looked like real dragons and exploded for the rest of their lives. Bang! At this moment, the rest of my life was slammed into the ground, and the battle platform shook violently. In the next moment, everyone saw the rough body rushing forward, and the demon-like wings continued changing form, turning into the sharpest demon blade in the world, suffocating forward, and for the rest of this moment, he is a demon, allowed to be killed by a true dragon, and his body pierced straight into it. The shadow of the dragon screaming instantly shattered and shattered, pierced straight through his entire body, and then shattered. But the rest of his body didn't stop at all. He immediately descended on Qin Yuan, stretched out his hand, and grabbed Qin Yuan. At this moment, Qin Yuan's face was pale, and his attacks were not even qualified to shake the opponent. He stepped back, trying to escape, knowing that the battle would be defeated. But where to escape? The body of the rest of his life turned into a shadow, and with just an instant, he felt his arm being gripped by a tremendous force, and he could not escape. Raw, a dragon shadow bloomed from him, towards the rest of his life, grabbing his arm. For the rest of his life, he raised his hand directly without feeling it at all. At this moment, even the shadow of the dragon was cast towards the void. The next moment, his arm fell. Bum! A loud noise came out, and people's hearts beat with this loud noise. Long Ying disappeared, and Qin Yuan's body lay motionless on the platform. You are presumptuous. The people of the Qin dynasty have blue faces, and they feel that Qin Yu will lose half his life if he does not die. Just one hit, just like Ye Fusion, but his lifelong attack feels even more fierce and violent. Sorry, I didn't expect him to be so weak, he said quietly for the rest of his life, then turned and left. Chapter 277, Killing. Watching the burly figure descend from the stage, the twitch inside was loud. This person was almost like a demon god. With one punch, he threw Qin Yuan onto the battle platform and lay motionless. Can't stand the wind. Qin Yuan is a descendant of the Qin dynasty and the grandson of the sun. His talent was unquestionable, but the scene before him was indeed fragile. The people in the Qin dynasty looked at the back with ugly faces. In the 3 battles, the prestige of the East Qin Academy was completely extinguished and he was abused to death. Every fight vibrates. At that moment, Qin Yuan's body twitched and wanted to wake up. Someone from the Qin dynasty went up and lifted him up. I don't know how many bones have been broken. This power is invincible. Even Caution, who had the same violent strength in the campus, saw the rest of his life walking backwards step by step, and his heart trembled violently. He could only see this power. Is this person still a normal person? He thought, if the rest of his life stepped into the heaven realm, yesterday's first battle of the 4 powers of the East Qin Academy combined, could the rest of his life be destroyed by his own strength? Thatched hut, firewood man. Even if the rest of his life claimed to be a woodcutter, his talent was never below Siovuji's. Many people feel that thatched huts are still thatched huts. Anyone in the thatched hut could be compared to the most evil existence among the other top forces in the eastern wasteland. After the Third World War, the Qin dynasty completely lost its previous momentum. In addition to being angry, it also showed a sense of weakness. They could not reach Ye Fusion's level in the rest of his life, and such a fight could not be imitated. Could someone like Qian Shan Mu keenly challenge an ordinary student on campus? As a result, the East Qin Academy was silent for a while, and no one continued to challenge. At this time, the figure who started on the battlefield, this person is the genius figure of Fuyun Janzong, Chiao. From the first peak of Fuyun Janzong, his talent is extraordinary. Seeing that many people are showing a strange look, it seems that, in addition to the confrontation between the 2 colleges, the other forces don't want to miss this debate, and finally some bad guys have started to appear. Chiao is called a disciple of Dao Shengshan, and the 2 forces are always the same. Under such circumstances, it is not surprising that Fuyun Janzong is challenging Dosheng Mountain. Immediately, on the battlefield, the shadow of the sword-light sword, the sharp breath permeated the heavens and the earth, extremely dangerous, and in the end of the battle was Qiusheng, defeating the Tianzhou character in the holy mountain of the sword. After that, the East Qin Academy turned its attention to Mount Dosheng, as if they were joining forces to suppress Mount Dosheng disciples and suppress Mount Dosheng to death. No one in the world knew that Dao Sheng resigned from Shushan to create a new one. Even though Dao Sheng was a self-made portal, he was still a great disciple of Kotang. When the conflict broke out in Yanjia Dinglu earlier, Doshan also publicly expressed his support for Kotang. It was no wonder that Sword Mountain was destroyed. But with Fuyung Janzong, they are imaginative. Did Dongqing Academy intentionally cause the solution? Or did Dongqing Academy and Fuyung Janzong go hand in hand? If the latter, this power will be a little scary. The controversy continues. Although the East Qin Academy has been active on the platform of controversy since the Battle of Ye Fusion and the rest of life, it is mainly aimed at Mount Dosheng. Disciples from the two great academies still had battles, each with its own results. Unknowingly, it was already evening. Kotang's disciple had left first. They planned to leave tomorrow. Today's battle has proven something. The East Qin Academy was created by the two top forces. Naturally unstoppable. However, I want to step on Kotang to become famous, but it's a shame. The debate on the second day ended. Although there were disciples from all major powers, it was more of a battle between the two colleges. People of all influences left and returned to the inn where they were staying. Today's battle, Kotang's disciple Ye Fusion became famous. But for some, that's not a good thing. For example, Luo Junlin, Ye Fusion finally showed his incomparable talent and defeated Qianshan Mu. In this way, his rise was inevitable and could not be stopped at all. Luo Junlin knew very well that once Ye Fusion grew into a prince, it would be the end of the Nandu kingdom. The characters he used to think could be pinched to death were now a huge threat. In the courtyard of the inn, Luo Junlin seemed to have something in mind, and Hizairo was staying with him. At this time, a figure came to the side. Hiziloruo Luojun came to see everyone coming and shouted, "Brother Chia." Chia Luo, a disciple of the King of Suspended Kings, was an extremely talented person. The main disciple of the Suspended King's House of Kings is a prestige among many teachers and brothers, and he is a good old man, and his disciples all respect him. "You too, tired all day, when are you getting married?" Chia Luo asked with a smile. Hizairo blushed slightly and shouted, "Brother, this kind of thinking is not yet available. Isn't Brother Luo unwilling to take responsibility?" Chia Luo was joking. Luo Junlin shook his head, "Brother Chia, I never wanted to. Anything to do." Chia Luo looked at Luo Junlin. "Is it because of Ye Fusion?" What happened a year ago was known to the Shan King Palace that some grudges between Luo Junlin and Ye Fusion were not secret. Luo Junlin didn't say anything, but it seemed to be the default. Ye Fusion is indeed a peerless demonic figure. Even though he borrowed the prince's weapon today, with his talent being revealed, if he was in the same realm as Qianshan Mu, he could still beat Qianshan Mu in terms of rhythm without using any magic weapons. Chia Luo sighed, "This is just what we saw. In today's battlefield, Ye Fusion has a reservation and has not yet bloomed all his strengths, such as his all-attribute talent, his life soul, law phase." Chia Luo's words made Luo Junlin and Hizairo frown, and the pressure came. "I am here to remind you of King's Landing, and you must train well, otherwise, in the future, Ye Fu will innocently deal with the King family side, and it will be troublesome for the King of Kings to shoot. It is very powerful. It's not that there's no chance to win Ye Fusion over. It's also a challenge. Ye Fusion is so arrogant today, coupled with the recent accumulation of grudges with the Qin dynasty and Dong Hazong, perhaps the two major powers will not let him go." He Zhu said. The Qin dynasty and Dong Hazong naturally want Ye Fusion to die. However, that is easier said than done. The power of the Eastern Wasteland is complicated. Kotang Academy's Sword Mountain is definitely a super powerful force. In the future, Ye Fusion will become even stronger and stronger. Stronger. As for killing, this situation really needs to happen. Isn't that a stupid hut? Who doesn't know that they started? Chia Luo said weakly, "Therefore, I can only train harder with my sister and try to always stay ahead of Ye Fusion, even though it is difficult." "Thank you, brother, for reminding me," Luo Junlin nodded. "Don't stress too much, rest early." Chia Luo nodded with a smile and then left the side. After Chia Luo left, Hizaru's eyes flashed and he whispered softly, "Jingalin, with Ye Fusion's talent, the more you want to kill him, the harder it will be. Shiru, what do you want to do?" Luo Jun looked at Hizairo. Hizairo smiled gently. Jiao's body was close to Luo Junlin, and he kissed gently on the lips and smiled, "Big brother is right. If someone kills Ye Fusion, now the Qin dynasty, Dong Hazong and Ye Fusionji, the grievances between them are naturally created by them." Luo Jun blinked, looked at Hizairo, held his cheeks with both hands, shook his head and said, "Don't take risks for me, even if I die, I don't want you to have anything." "Stupid, how can I do something?" Hizaru's eyes were so gentle, this was the man she loved, and she was willing to give everything for him. The reason why Kotang Jiu Dongyu is so strong is to make the world not dare to move anyone in Kotang. The killing of a Kotang disciple was truly extremely dangerous. Both Luo Junlin and Hiziro understood that if they were discovered, even the Hanging King Temple would not be able to protect them and die. But women, often for some reason, at any cost, even risk their lives, for example, for a loved one. Of course, Hiziro can't take it himself, that is, to find death, but there is such a person in his hands. Maybe he had such thoughts in the past. When he first saw him, he thought so, he always hid it, never actually used it. Now, it was finally useful, and he believed in his heart that no one would be able to find it. Ellipsis, ellipsis, ellipsis. Of course, Ye Fusion wouldn't know Hiziru's killing thoughts on him. At this time, he was training at the inn, and they were leaving tomorrow. It makes no sense to stay here. Today's battle with Qianshan Mu as the backdrop was enough. Although he could have done more, Mu Zhuyulan was not a good thing at all. After all, the level is too low, and the three brothers have such concerns, so that it will let the hut very strong. Fusion. At this time, a familiar voice came, Liu Feiyang, Liu Shenyu and Ye Wuchen came here. Come here. Ye Fusion smiled. He's already told them he's leaving tomorrow, and I don't know when he'll see him again. Well, but that brings us bad news, said Liu Feiyang. What news? Ye Fusion asked. About Waji. Ye Fusion's eyes flickered and he asked, what's wrong with CU? I heard some people talking about this time, this trip to the city of singing. Hua Jiu originally wanted to come, but there was some small conflict with the Moon Wezong holy girl, this did not come. Liu Feiyang said. Ye Fusion frowned, he kept wondering why he knew he might come to Choge but CU didn't come. It turns out that there is a reason. This girl had even deliberately hidden herself, so that the words her brother carried did not mention any specific reason, perhaps because she was afraid to worry. Chapter 278, Death. However, Ye Fusion also feels that CU's sister is not evil to herself. In this case, CU's situation should not be too bad, maybe it is just a contradiction with Chu Chu. Thinking of this, Ye Fusion showed his thoughts, and then he said, let's go and sit with the Moon Sect's fairy. Liu Feiyang looked at Ye Fusion with a smile, and said, you are not afraid that CU knows what he is thinking. Hee. Ye Fusion looked at Liu Feiyang with disdain. He is afraid of his wife. Joke. Come on, kneel. Ye Fusion held his head up straight and had to prove his status. Liu Shenyu leaked Ye Fusion with contempt. Pretending to look like, who doesn't know who. With the fish drowning, Qianshan Mu and Qin Mengruo are both married. When will you two happen? Ye Fusion looked back at Liu Shenyu, and Liu Shenyu's sneering eyes fell on him and looked at him in shock. Ye Fusion. Did this thought jump too fast? Do you care? Liu Shenyu looked at Ye Fusion. Ah. Ye Fusion blinked. Liu Shenyu also seemed to realize that he had said something wrong, and then saw Ye Fusion smiled and looked at him with ambiguous words. I understand, you two can discuss it yourself, remember to give no me. Then, a group of people walked out of the inn. Tonight the sky was a bit dark, and there were no stars in the sky, but Choge city was now very lively and the streets were brightly lit. When Ye Fusion stepped out of the inn, somewhere in the corner, a lazy figure slowly stood up and walked forward. He was still thinking about how to approach Ye Fusion. If he can't, he can only find an excuse to enter the inn, but he knows that the end will be certain and there will be no return. However, it seems that Tian also helped him, and Ye Fusion took the initiative to step out. Lodging Ye Fusion and his entourage chatted and walked, and naturally there were no restrictions with Wu Chen and Liu Shenyu. But at this moment, Ye Fusion's steps stopped. What is it? Liu Feiyang asked. It's a killer, let's pretend it's back. Ye Fusion suppressed his voice very low, and then said, I almost forgot to bring something important. We went back to the inn first and then went out. Liu Feiyang and others shivered, then cooperated with Ye Fusion and said, okay, then go back to the inn to get things. Their eyes are not looking, because Ye Fusion feels murderous, it is likely that someone will have to deal with them. At this time, of course, they will not be stupid enough to deliberately alert the other party, or to find out someone, and die. Ye Fusion's approach was undoubtedly the most correct. He would return to the inn first without speaking to the others. The academy and the Kotang brothers are at the inn, and the other party is unlikely to make a difference. In the darkness, the shadow frowned, was it found? Hu Tong was not a professional assassin, but he owed the king of the five Hanging King Palace thousands of lives, and so far he still owed it. As long as it was Miss He's orders, even if she knew she was going to die, she didn't hesitate to come. He knew that he killed an important person today. Although the opponent's territory is not high, he is much worse than him, but no one dares to kill this person so easily in the East Wasteland. Since Miss He asked her to do it, she could only do it. Can't bring him back to the inn. Hu Tong said secretly in his heart, then stepped out of the shadows. Maybe he wasn't found, maybe Ye Fusion would come out, and when Ye Fusion was away from the inn, his chances of survival would be greater, but he couldn't take the risk. He can't afford to bet. This is an opportunity not to be missed. Ye Fusion accelerated, Hu Tong also accelerated, he approached Ye Fusion and others from the side. A powerful gravity spell descended into this space, oppressing Ye Fusion and the others. Almost at the same time, a figure stood up. Sword out. The silver sword light was so bright and beautiful that it lit up Hu Tong's face. He didn't cover his face. In front of the top forces in the eastern wasteland, he was just a humble little fellow. No, who will know him? He came to kill. If he is masked, won't he tell others that he is a murderer? But he didn't expect to be found. Even though he was unprofessional, who actually felt so attracted to him? Prisoner. The earth-like spell was released, and the strong earthy yellow aura around Ye's dust-free body suddenly ran away, and then turned into a prison, directly blocking his space. The dazzling silver sword light was cut off, but no sword penetrated the prison. The other party's cultivation is heaven. The vast space, the endless earth-colored aura raged, turned into a huge space prison, blocking Ye Fusion's way, and in order to completely imprison this space, his figure headed straight for Ye Fusion. At this time, everyone knew that he was headed for Ye Fusion. Hu Tong's speed was extremely fast. At the same time, his hands danced, spells flew, and a dragon whistled towards everyone. The powerful gravity technique suppressed space, making Ye Fusion's movements slow down. Hu Tong knew that he didn't have much time. It was very close to the inn where Ye Fusion was. They didn't come far, and they had to kill Ye Fusion quickly. Countless vines rolled towards the void. This is a wooden spell. Blooming wildly in the void. Liu Feiyang and Liu Shenyu looked at each other and knew each other's intentions. The two of them worked together only for a moment. Full of vines. The next moment, the flames lit up, instantly burning the vines, and the entire void was buried by the flames and couldn't be seen clearly. Liu Feiyang's brothers and sisters know that it is difficult for them to stop each other directly, and they can only hold each other in this way. Hurry up. Liu Feiyang shouted in a low voice. The rest of his life had gone to the prison in front. With a roar, he turned into a demon, and behind him the terrifying ghost image of the Demon King appeared. A giant demon appeared, and the rest of his life crushed him in front of him with a loud bang and a hole in the prison. Go away, roared the rest of his life. Ye Fusion knew that this was not the time to be polite. The other party's target was him. As long as he escapes, the other party will not have time to deal with other people. Otherwise, he stays here, and other people are more dangerous. The golden winged Darping's wings appeared, and the wind spell wrapped his body, even under the gravity spell. The speed was still very fast, and he rushed towards the broken hole. But at this moment, a terrifying yellow sandstorm flooded the space and rushed at Ye Fusion. The law phase was released, the terrible ape shadow, the bright wings, the 5 elements stuck to the hand, the body twisted, slammed forward, splitting the storm, and the body continued to move forward. However, the terrifying yellow sandstorm rolled straight into his body, endlessly, bound to his body, and then Ye Fusion found that his body was bound in the void. The next moment, a khaki spear descended from the storm and pierced his body. At this time, the burly body of the rest of his life blocked Ye Fusion's sky again, and he saw that he had turned into a real demon, with a high majesty, holding a magic tripod above his head. Violent power exploded on the magic tripod, suppressing the body for a lifetime. A figure passed through it directly, and headed straight for Ye Fusion. It was Hu Tong that he ran out of time. Watching the other party kill with a spear, Ye Fusion's emperor tactic pushed him away, and suddenly, a terrible emperor was about to erupt from his body. His strength seemed to be getting stronger, and the blood on his body seemed to be burning. The sun, moon and phases appeared, turning into a yin and yang force, suffocating towards the other side. Hu Tong only felt a terrible will in his head. Like an imperial emperor, he was shocked. What kind of man is he trying to kill? Boom. Ye Fusion broke free from those restraints, but Hu Tong's attack had already come. Ye Fusion's body broke with extreme force. A roar, the ape came back to life. Long Xiao 9 days, Jinpeng spread his wings, gave birth to a vision. The monstrous ape slashed holding the 5 elemental stick, collided with the opponent's spear. A loud sound, the forward spear continued to explode, and Ye Fusion's 5 element stick slammed into the opponent's body, but Hu Tong's stick palm continued to shoot forward, and a terrifying palm print erased everything, covered Ye Fuxian and banged on his body. Two loud noises came out, Ye Fuxian's body was shaken and he vomited blood. Hu Tong also vomited blood, only feeling that the 5 internal organs were rolling, and his heart was horrified. How could someone in France hurt him? How amazing is this? Just as he thought, the rest of his life was like a demon coming down from the sky and hitting him. Ye Wuchen held the sharp sword and strangled it. Around, there are people who are constantly approaching this side, and Hu Tong's face is as dead as a face. He knew that he had failed. There is no chance to kill Ye Fuxian. The punch just now was the best chance. Bang! A loud sound, Hu Tong's palm came out, 2 huge fingerprints fluttered, fiercely attacking the figure that killed him. A terrifying power shocked him, and with this force he turned around and wanted to leave. But at this time, a page of ancient books in the distance quickly flew to the side. The pages of the ancient books emptied the void, descended from a faraway place, and then turned into a spell, bursting towards Hu Tong. Hu Tong's face was pale. After blocking the spell, he turned around and saw an indifferent figure walking in the void, staring at him with endless coldness. Snowy night, it's here. Who told you to come? The snowy night that he liked to joke about on ordinary days. At this moment, there was only a cold killing thought in his eyes, just like the one in Jiu Purgatory. Someone even killed a cottage teacher. It was enough to make him feel cold. He didn't know the person in front of him and dared to kill the disciples in the hut. How could no one teach him? Hu Tong glanced at Zhuai, he naturally understood the end. There was a sad smile in his eyes, then he raised his palm and patted his head with a look that surprised everyone. There was a loud sound and blood splattered. Even when the injured Ye Fuxian saw this scene, his heart shook violently, and he was very hard on himself. He who killed him came, and had no plans to leave alive. Chapter 279, Stormy. Zhu Ye looked at the fallen body, his face was blurry, his eyes were very gloomy. How can you keep a secret this way? Many people gathered around them, and they discovered that the person who was attacked was actually Ye Fuxian. Some people wanted to kill the students in the hut, which made many people feel cold. They all understood that this matter was big. At that time, someone in the Qin palace bullied Ye Fuxian and the rest of his life and injured the rest of his life. For this reason, a Donghazong prince was abolished. Today, the nature of this incident was clearly too serious. This is murder. From start to finish, Ye Fu was destined to leave. Regardless of success or failure, the incident has been flagged. If it is shown by other top powers, it will definitely be a storm. Many people can't help but think about what happened during the day. Ye Fuxian fought thousands of mountains and twilight and defeated him. Then he denounced the Qin dynasty and Qin Mang, which made the East Qin Academy extremely embarrassing. So will the assassination be carried out by the Qin dynasty and Donghazong. The suspicions of the two major powers are naturally great. However, in the current situation, several people killed Ye Fuxian. The first suspects in the hut were the Qin dynasty and Donghazong. In this case, the two major powers will take this risk. Are you ready for war? Or is there another power that wants to set off a storm in the dark, take the designer church in war between the two powers? What will happen to the thatched hut and academy? The numbers flashed, and Yi Shaoxi and many people from the academy also arrived, and they all looked indifferent when they saw the scene. There is something, Yi Shaoxi asked when he came to Ye Fuxian. No problem. Ye Fuxian shook his head and was still able to stand up. It's really dangerous now. Fortunately, they came out as a group of people. Otherwise, if he was attacked by a strong person in the heaven world, it might be planted here who will kill him. The atmosphere of this space seemed very depressing, and Zhu King and Zhongzhu's mountain academy also arrived. When they came to Zhuai, Zhu King asked, what happened? Little master was killed, Zhu Ye said, his voice gloomy. Speaking, Zhu Ye went to Ye Fuxian, and at this time Ye Wuchen gathered for the rest of his life, and his body was filled with an extremely cold killing mind. Are there any clues? Zhu Ye asked. Ye Fuxian shook his head. A mage who is skilled in the field of land, also practices martial arts, ascended to the heavenly realm, and as soon as I left the inn, I felt a secret killing. He was waiting outside. Who do you think is the most suspicious? Zhu Ye asked. Ye Fuxian thought for a while, then shook his head. Who knows who is not known? The Qin dynasty and Donghazong had reasons, and the Yin family had reasons to kill him. It was even possible that someone wanted to create discord on purpose. Even in the palace of the suspended kings, there was a slight chance that Luo Junlin and him were mortal enemies. However, with Luo Jinline's cultivation as a kingdom, I am afraid that this death rate cannot be used, unless ordered by the prince, but the prince of the suspended king palace, but there is no reason to do so, but Luo Jinline's girlfriend is extraordinary, and can't completely deny this possibility. It's hard to know who made the assassination orders by speculation alone. Go back to the inn first. Zhu King said, and Zuye nodded, then left with the corpse and returned to the inn. An invisible sense of depression spread throughout the Song city. Soon, the main forces got news one after another. Ye Fuxian was killed. The moment they got the news, people developed the feeling that the eastern wasteland had been quiet for many years, but now, there was wind and rain looming. Kotang's disciple was killed. Although I don't know who did it, it must be the top team standing behind the scenes. Who is the brave team? Other than that, there's no reason to do so. Ye Fuxian didn't seem to offend anyone other than the peak forces, at most only the Yin family tied to the Qin dynasty. After Dao Zong, autumn ancient Dao Zi and which Jiu Biu got the news, they were confused. Qin dynasty and Donghua Zong are so crazy. The people of Fuyung Janzong saw the lively movement, they hoped that it was really carried out by the Qin dynasty and Donghua Zong. In this way, it is a real drama. In Wezong, many fairy figures were secretly shocked, and Ye Fuxian was killed. If Hua Jiu found out, she would be very worried. Chu Yu was confused, is it really the Qin dynasty? When the news reached the palace of the suspended kings, the people in the temple of the suspended kings also saw a lively movement, and naturally this order was not given by them. At this time, many disciples in the king's palace gathered to discuss this matter. Kizairo suppressed his emotions, and then returned to his residence alone, his face turning pale. Did it fail? The assassination failed. Moreover, in such a short period of time, there was an uproar, it is conceivable that the next Choge city will never calm down. Will she be found on him? He believed that would not happen. Although Hu Tong was loyal to him, he was always hidden in the dark. No one cares about such a person. Heaven Realm strongmen were everywhere in Choge city, and he gave orders very discreetly. Most importantly, Hu Tong was dead. The dead, of course, keep secrets. Moreover, Hu Tong is not a person from Chogecheng. No one will know him. The only drawback is in the Hanging King Palace. Brother Chia Luo didn't know if he would guess something, but even if he really had doubts, Brother Chia Luo would not betray the Shan King Palace. The brother must understand the seriousness of the matter. The thought of Hiziru's eyes gradually became strong again, and there was no evidence of death, everything would be as usual. This secret, accompanied by the death of Hu Tong, will be buried in the ground forever. Let the Lodge and the Qin dynasty fight against them. On this night, there is no sleep in Song City. Many students in the academy where the academy resides set out to find clues. The top squad found that they were all staring. Very disrespectful, but no one said anything. The killing of the Kotang disciples must have been carried out by the top forces. At this moment, they were watching their movements. Even though the troops were displeased, they didn't say anything. No one would collide with the academy for this reason at this time. The Qin and Donghua Zong dynasties were very quiet, desolate and pitiful. They naturally understood that Ye Fuxian's murder was the first person the cottage suspected. Under such circumstances, a little carelessness is war. I spent the night in Song City in a depressed mood. When the next day came, the entire Song City was talking about the murder of Ye Fuxian. Around the battlefield of the East Qin Academy, endless forces gathered. Today the debate is still going on normally. The recruitment of disciples at the East Qin Academy had been going on for 3 months. Even if the peak powers were not present, the debate would continue. However, today's atmosphere is definitely different, enthusiasm is high in the previous 2 days, but today, East Qin Academy seems to be filled with invisible pressure. The strong people of the top forces arrived one after another, and Qin Yu stepped onto the stage, seemingly ready to announce today's debate. But at this time, a group of strong men from a distance came straight from the air, and countless eyes suddenly looked over there. The one who came was a man from the academy. The strong people led by them were Zong Zhu and Zhu King. They were cold, walking in the air, heading straight for the battle platform. Qin Yu also saw the void, and then he saw Zong Zhu and Zhu King standing directly on the battle platform. Zhu King asked Qin Yu, wouldn't the Qin dynasty give an account? Qin Yu raised an eyebrow and looked at Zhu Qingdao. My Qin dynasty is also very surprised by what happened last night. If there is a need, we will try our best to cooperate. It is over. Zhu King looked cold. What does Zhu Kangshan mean? Qin Yu frowned. This is the city of Choge, the site of the Qin dynasty, and the academy. This is a promise to go to the Qin dynasty, Zhu King said coldly. Does the academy think that my Qin dynasty would be so stupid to do such things on my own site? King Yudav. Nothing is impossible. Zhu King turned around and looked at the people. I think you all know what happened last night. Furthermore, my academy hopes that all the top forces in Choge City will be able to stay with the academy until the person behind the scenes is identified. Nothing could be lacking. Zhu King looked very serious, and the vast space was silent. Good strong academy, all the top powerhouses in Choge City are not allowed to leave. Too much. Suddenly a voice came out from Fuyun Janzong. Why do they keep working together? When the person behind the scenes is found, my academy will thank and apologize for that, and I hope you can understand. Zhu King continued, and many people regretted that because Zhu King said so, it was understandable and true. After the murder, came to apologize. This is not to detect the real culprit and will not end. Dao Shengshan is willing to cooperate fully with the academy. In this regard, the Dao Shengshan strongman made a statement, and many people scolded their hearts. You, Dao Shengshan, and the thatched hut belong together, of course. Liu Guo is also willing to cooperate. I don't want this to happen to anyone. At this time, Liu Guo, a strong man, also spoke. If there were more such killings, the eastern wasteland would be in chaos. In the future, everyone will come to such a hand. Shouldn't the talented descendants of every power have to be killed? This of course must be taken seriously. They could imagine that the academy would show such strong determination. The storm probably won't end for a while. Thank you for your understanding, Zhu King said, then turned to look at King Yu. If the real killer can't be found, then the academy defaults to the Qin dynasty and leaves. Therefore, it immediately took off. King Yu stared at the back of Zhu King in the void, and his face was extremely unsightly. Can't find the real killer, is it the Qin dynasty? Many people are shocked. What happened to the Song dynasty in the territory of the Qin dynasty cannot find the real killer? Then the Qin dynasty is responsible, and this is the attitude of the academy. In the crowd, Shan Wangdian and Luo Junlin held two fists slightly, with a hint of fear in their hearts. He naturally knew who made it. Despite being very secretive, the academy's determination made everyone feel cold. Chapter 280, Two Sisters Going Down the Mountain. The debate in Dongkan Academy is normal, but people's thoughts are not at all, far from the atmosphere of the previous 2 days. Moreover, neither the academy nor the thatched hut were present. It was as if the East Qin Academy was holding a debate, and as a result of Ye Fusion's killing, there was no sound at all. Many people can't help but think about recent events. Qin dynasty and Dong Hazong married, East Qin Academy opened, Lu Nanshan challenged Jiu Donglu, and Choge City was held in a flourishing period. However, Jiu Dong lost Lu Nanshan and Ye Fusion defeated Qianshan Mu. Currently, the academy and the thatched huts had already removed the site of Choge City. At this time, the people in Choge City guessed who was behind Ye Fusion's murder. Can it be found? If it can't be found, the academy defaults to the Qin dynasty. Then, will the two top forces fight? The atmosphere of Choge City is always tense. It is said that the disciples of the upper powers are not only being stared at, but also that the academy has even begun to check the contacts of the disciples of the upper powers. For a while, the wind was blowing hard. Many major powers were very upset about this, and even scolded them openly, but the academy didn't pay any attention to them. Now they only have one goal: to find out who is behind the scenes. Of course, although the top-level people had big opinions, there were no disciples left. Was it completely ignoring the attitude of the Cheer Academy? Things they weren't originally doing. If they left, the academy doubted what would happen. The determination of the academy can be seen by all forces. As for Zairo, he didn't even dare to leave. Did he take the initiative to let her pay attention to him? Definitely not that stupid. One day passed, and according to some people, the people of the academy came down the mountain one after another, and now many people have come to Choge City. At the inn, where the disciples were, a shadow came silently. This figure was like a fairy, white dress, black hair falling like a waterfall. When he walked, his steps were very light, as if without weight. Sis. Zuye saw this beautiful figure advancing and shouted. The figure of this arrival was Zhu Hui, the disciple of the two huts. He rolled his eyes and fell on Zuye's body. Looking into his smiling eyes, Zuye lowered his head slightly. After returning to the lodge, copying of books is not allowed down for a year. Zhu Gavi's voice was soft. Zuye nodded wryly, sadly. He naturally understood why the elder sister was angry. The third brother returned to the hut. Here he is the biggest brother in the cottage. The older brother was almost killed when this happened. Sis. She's brother. Yi Shaoxi and Ye Fuxian also came here, and they were a little surprised to see Sister Ershi appear. Especially Yi Shaoxi, since she set foot in the hut, the second sister has never gone down the mountain, this is the first time. Little brother, how's the injury? Zhu Gehui stepped forward, Maimo asked Ye Fuxian. Sister, I have no problem. Apart from saying sister, even if it hurts, Ye Fuxian said with a smile, this matter has nothing to do with the four brothers. Sister does not blame him. You little man. Zhu Hui said, it is not easy to let the younger brother happen like this, and punishing him for 1 year is not allowed to step down. Is there any clue now? Not. Ye Fuxian shook his head, make the sister worry. Little lion, talk about what happened in the last few days. Zhu Gehui looked at Yi Shaoxi. After that, I sat down, brothers and sisters standing next to each other honestly. Now, this is the first real drop. Yi Shaoxi said all the general stuff, including the response from the academy. After he finished speaking, someone came from the academy, Shan Chang Zhu King and Bai Lishu, who came alone. They also just learned that the second disciple from the hut came down. Both the great hut and the three disciples passed through the battle of the gods. However, there was a female disciple in the middle, and no one was familiar with her. No one knows who Kotang's second student is, even at the same campus in Shushan. I only know that there is such a person, his name is Zhu Hui. East Desert, no legend. However, this time Ye Fuxian was killed, Jiu Dongyu did not come, Kotang's second disciple went down, and no one dared to hate him. Thatched huts have proven to the world that every student of thatched huts needs to be taken seriously. When the two disciples in front of Jiu Dongyu descended the mountain, who dared to underestimate the female disciple? The arrival of Zhu King in the Bailey book, their eyes fell on Zhu Hui. The disciples of the two cottages were not only female disciples, but also very beautiful. Zhu Huai's eyes glanced at Zhu King in the Book of Thousand Miles, with a faint smile in his eyes. Sister Ershi, this is Zhu Kangshan, Zhu Ye said. This is my second sister. Another snowy night to Zhu Qingdao, which made Ye Fuxian next to him have a strange look. Is this the first time the mountain leader and sister from the lodge have met? Needs to be introduced. If it is said that no academy student has set foot in the hut, he believes it, but Sister Ershi never comes down. Otherwise, with the appearance and status of the second teacher, it is impossible to go unnoticed. His gaze looked at Yi Shaoxi next to him. Yi Shaoxi seemed to understand his doubts and whispered, I stepped into the hut and saw the second sister coming down the mountain for the first time. Ye Fuxian felt warmth in his heart when he heard Yi Shaoxi's words. Didn't the second teacher never go down the mountain? This time, for him, for the first time down the mountain. Does Shan Chang think that this can identify the people behind the scenes? Zhu Gehui asked with a smile. It's easy and there's no polite language. Zhu King was not angry either. Even though he was a senior, he actually saw that Jiu Dongyu and Lu Nanshan were fighting, and Jiu Dongyu's strength was actually above him. How the students of the lodge were actually treated as juniors. What's more, he was still in front of Jiu Dongyu. Difficult. Zhu King answered bluntly. The killer would be much simpler if he lived, but the person who killed Ye Fuxian died and even crushed his own head. There are clues. Choge City was not their home. Even though the various top-tier powers had been abandoned, they still had some obstacles. Can they really investigate these top-tier powers one by one? In that case, wouldn't that offend the entire Donghang? Shan Chang's way is very gentle, of course difficult. Zhu Hui smiled and said, Zhu Kang's eyes lit up, the method is gentle. Letting all the top powers hesitate and remain the limit the academy can do. But there is one thing that Shanshan is right. If the killer can't be found, it's naturally the Qin dynasty. Zhu Hui continued to laugh, since it happened in Choge City and was invited by the Qin dynasty, this one of course, the Qin dynasty is in charge, of course. Shan Chang is so gentle with the Qin dynasty, and he expects the Qin dynasty to cooperate. Zhu Kang's eyes flickered and she asked, what do you think? My sister was killed in Choge City, and the East Qin Academy debate continues. Is this a joke? Sister Ershi said with a smile. Zhu Kang's eyes shone. Then, he felt a terrifying spiritual will bloom from Zhu Hui, permeating the world. Sis. Ye Fuxian and others turned their eyes and looked at the second sister. At this time, a bright light shone on the second sister, and the terrifying spiritual will almost trembled. Every spiritual will instantly turned into an illusory light emanating from his body. In the next moment, many figures appeared in the void, they were all the figures of Zhu Hui. Zhu King and Bailey's eyes stared at Zhu Hui, and their feelings became clearer. This spiritual will is so strong that it makes people tremble. Little brother, please wait a moment. Ju Jui said with a smile, and then his eyes closed, and the next moment, a series of illusory figures appeared in the sky, bursting into the sky and flying straight into the sky. Ye Fusion's heart trembled, and the sister of the second division closed her eyes and sat quietly, but her body seemed to show a holy light, like an ordinary fairy. Ellipsis, ellipsis, ellipsis. Outside the East Keen Academy, the debate was still going on. Although many people did not have much thought, especially the top powers, this was still a big event for Choge City and many people who wanted to join the East Keen Academy. Just then, there seemed to be a roaring sound from the sky, and a coercive will fell from the sky. The next moment, they saw a line fly directly from above. Ignoring the ongoing debate, it popped directly over everyone's heads. Many people looked up, and then saw beautiful figures appear above the void. And it's the same person. This figure is as beautiful as a fairy, and it is very beautiful. No one knows him and no one sees him. The people of the Keen dynasty frowned. Such events appeared directly in the sky, and they were somewhat arrogant. The people in the top forces are also curious, who is this person? The next moment, every figure turned into a dazzling streamer, shooting towards the sky, like shooting stars. King Yu suddenly realized something, and said coldly, arrogant. His words fell, and he stepped forward. Not only him, but many of the strong people in the East Keen Academy also took steps at the same time, but they were still slow. At this time, there were people on the 4 battle platforms. They stared in horror at the falling current, and the figure of a beautiful woman fell like a shooting star. Bang, bang, bang. There were loud noises, and the figures on the battle platform flew out. Then, the battle platform exploded and shattered. The figure of the prince descended and looked at the shattered battle platform. His body was cold. Boom. Another loud sound. King Yu turned around, and saw that the gates of the East Keen Academy were directly smashed. At this moment, the faces of the Keen dynasty and Dong Hazong were extremely cold. Countless eyes stared at the figure in the void. At this moment, there is only one person in the void, who is standing like a fairy, standing proudly. The great power trembled. Who is this woman? Who are you? King Yu asked in a very cold voice. At the end of the debate at the East Keen Academy, within 7 days, my little brother's affairs were unclear. Choge City was taken over by Kotang, so the East Keen Academy doesn't need to exist. Yukong. At this moment, countless people's hearts trembled fiercely.